In this video, we'll finish up our implementation of a queue by taking a look at our dequeue and peek operations. So let's start off with dequeue. The main idea of this operation is basically going to be to remove the value that's currently at the front of the queue and then to update the front to be the next value in the queue. So of course, one of the main things that we want to check first is if the size is greater than 0. This will prevent us from trying to remove an empty value from a queue. So if there's no values on the queue, we can't remove anything. So that's why we have this check here. First off, we're going to get the value from the front of the queue. So we'll get the front value. And then we're also going to store a reference to what's currently at the front of the queue. And the reason why we're going to do this is so that we are able to deallocate this from memory later. So we're going to go ahead and move the front. So we set the front to be the front next, like this. And then we decrement the size of the queue since we just removed something from it. And then we free the memory related to the thing that we just removed. And then we simply return that value back to the user. So generally, all we're really doing here is we're just moving the front one step forward and then deallocating the memory of that, as well as decreasing the size. So that's the whole idea of a removal from this queue. Now, of course, on this else statement, we can handle any sort of situation where this error has occurred. For my purposes, I'm just going to put like a really simple, invalid dequeue operation like this. And I'm just going to return a -1. Now, in your case, you can have this throw an error or pop up an error. You can do really anything here. This is just for demonstration purposes that I do this, not necessarily what you would do in an actual situation, but that just gives us something that will pop up if we have an invalid dequeue. So that gives you an ability to remove values from the queue. Now, the last thing that we also need to be able to do is to peek values from the queue. So see values that are at the front, but not necessarily remove them. This, again, we're going to make sure that the size is greater than 0. We don't want to try to peek at a value that isn't there. And then we're going to return the front value. Otherwise, we could do an error handling, like, invalid peek operation. And again, like I said before, I'll just return -1. You could add in any sort of error handling here if you want to. So all it's going to do is it's going to remove what's at the, or it's going to return what's at the front of the queue without removing it. So dequeue removes the front value. This just tells us the front value. So to test this out, let's just add a few more tests into this here. I'll remove these and replace them with their formal operations, that being the actual peek operation and dequeue operation. So we're going to peek at the queue here. And then we're also going to do some dequeues. So we'll just copy this, we'll paste it in. And we'll do like 2 different dequeues here. So we'll do a first one, and we will do a second one. Let's go ahead and compile this and run it. And as you can see, you get the results 1, 1, 2. So just to sort of summarize up what we've done here. So remember that after this second on queue, we have the value 1, followed by the value 2. This is the front. This is the rear. When we do a peek, it gives us this value. When we do a dequeue, it gives us this value and removes it from the queue. This dequeue would remove this value since it's the next one. And at this point, we have an empty queue. So that's why we get a result 1 from this, 1 from this, and 2 from this, because this checked what the value was. This one removed the value, and then this one removes the value that follows. So this gives us a fully functional dequeue operation. And at this point, we've implemented the basic functionality required to create a stack in C. So thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.